Hello, everyone. This is our October 19th Bay ICT Tech Talk. Welcome. I'm Olivia Hereford, and I'm the Regional Director for the Bay Area Community College Consortium, focusing on employer engagement for the ICT digital media sector. And today, our guest is Don Simmons with, is it SO Innovate or So Innovate? How do you?
It's So Innovate.
Okay.
That's my own little private company, but I also do a lot of work. I'm working for a couple of different companies as well. So
Great.
I keep busy.
Well, we're excited to have you here, and I think everybody knows in our promotion that your presentation talks is going to be around service management and process improvement, and how to work in, or what type of skills or experiences are needed in things like IT centers of excellence. So welcome, and I want to also give a plug for our next Bay ICT Tech Talk, which is in another area that our employers are telling us they need people, and that is in IT project coordination and management.
I'm going to touch on that.
Agree.
Yes.
And you agree. So So that is gonna, Molly Uzo will be our speaker on November 1st, and she will be talking about some of the opportunities and why there's a growing need in that area. So anyway, so Dawn, take it away. You can share your screen and we can get started. Oh, and by the way, I would encourage you all, if you feel comfortable, please use your a camera, and if not, that's fine. And as we're going along, if you have questions about what Dawn is presenting, you can certainly put that in the chat. And I think, again, we've got a small group here. If you feel comfortable, just go ahead also and just pipe up with your questions.
Absolutely.
And because we do want this to be an interactive session. So Dawn, take it away.
Thank you so much, Olivia. Are you guys seeing my screen all right?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, good. I really am happy to be with you today. And as Olivia said, I want this to add value for you. And I'm so happy to share about what's going on with the realms of digital transformation. You might hear the buzzword CX, that's customer experience, and how the customer experience and digital transformation are working together to create these focused centers of excellence. There's a lot happening in the industry. Some of that was happening before COVID, and we have a lot of post-pandemic changes that require a certain, maybe more unique skill set than we had before COVID. So I'll touch on that today. So tonight's big ideas that I'd be happy to be sharing with you is how we actually identify opportunities for digital transformation. The key behind that is really everything we need to do. It's not busy work, it's really delivering service management value. So keeping in mind what our customer needs us to deliver, what we're business oriented to do, and delivering value in those areas. We know that change is a constant, particularly in technology. You're going to constantly have reorganizations and refocuses, and some of that is very unsettling. I've been doing this quite a few years, and the first biggest challenge I faced in service management was September 11th. 2001. I worked for a company called Microsystems, and we had a office that we supported in the World Trade Center. The ideas for digital transformation are more current day, but change is always happening, and it's creating quantum shifts in how we deliver business. If we build our mindset and our focus and our experience on, okay, what do we need to change to deliver value? This change has happened. We recognize that. What do we need to do to, incorporate that? So business process, and as Olivia said at the beginning of the call with the next event that you have talking about project and program management, there's a reason for that. So the keys for digital transformation, and this is why project managers, technical project managers, and business process managers are really key to digital transformation, as well as continuous process improvement. And then I will also touch upon standing up an IT center of excellence with your business stakeholders. It really takes you from a point of what do we need to do to be more future forward? What needs to change in our business process? What does that journey look like? And then we build the centers of excellence with the logic that change is always happening and we're always going to have new demands. What can we do to satisfy those new demands and stay relevant? Staying relevant is key. I'm going to pause there, see if there's any questions or comments. They're shy. You're shy. Okay, we'll move on. Transformation. What is digital transformation? Well, really, this is about a fresh perspective. We are looking at business with the logic that we're always going to have new processes to orient. We have new business models and new revenue streams to go after. Those that don't go after that, if there's a lot of statements around innovate or die, I don't like that. I like more the idea innovate and thrive. Digital transformation really helps businesses, enterprises to accelerate value-driven customer experience. It's all about improving the products, the services, cost and value to the customers that we are serving. The demand for digital transformation is not really about creating tools. It's about creating solutions. And this is why too often in enterprise business, companies will go out and buy a tool to try to solve a business process problem. If you put standards in front of that and you understand what your business process needs to do, you will be able to identify marketplace voids in your business or the market that you serve and really satisfy those needs, creating a trusted partner position in your industry that helps you to deliver business value. Have you guys seen examples of digital transformation that you'd like to share? Some examples that I've seen, I've done a lot of work with ServiceNow, and one of the things that they did during COVID that I thought was incredible, many people think digital transformation needs a whole lot of planning and a whole lot of testing and, you know, be very safe about it before you do it. Sometimes safe isn't an option. And what ServiceNow did, I was working on a IT service management project for a $9 billion supermarket at the time the pandemic struck. And most grocery stores are fairly traditional business. They don't have like work from home. They don't have, all the work is done in stores and offices. So what I did with them, we went in to work on their ITSM processes, and then the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden, business was so disrupted by the risks. We basically had the president saying you need to keep your stores open. Food supply in a crisis is critical, but you also had to keep your people safe. You had to take care of your customers, and you had to deal with supply chain challenges. So that was a time of great challenge and innovation, and waiting to get the process perfect is not an option when you're in those times. So what ServiceNow did for their customers, and this made a big difference, not just their customers, they offered COVID toolkits to help human resources manage the impacts of COVID management, crisis management. We had enterprise processes for how we manage things like making sure nobody was managing incidents in the office, things like that. This was a time, and ServiceNow offered this free to not just their customers, to the industry. Crisis creates opportunity. And that's part of a good example of digital transformation, because these tools that they rolled out had an embedded process behind them that was consistent for every business that needed to stay open. And for those that needed to suddenly switch, where they were doing everything in an office, all of a sudden their business, their work stream, their sales stream was all remote. So there was a lot of shifting that happened at the last minute to enable the COVID marketplace to continue. Any questions or comments on that? Okay, moving right along. I'll share another digital transformation story. This is my favorite car. I love a Mustang. My dream car, my perfect car, and I've waited for it for years, was a Mustang that was a convertible that was electric. Because I have this vision of driving that car to the ocean and watching the sunset. Ford really, during the pandemic, that's one of the things that they took on as a full charter, digital transformation, Ford Motor Company. The automotive industry dramatically changed during the pandemic because people weren't going to car lots and test driving cars, but they still were buying cars. So what they did to their car during the COVID lockdown is that they created a digital customer first focus. They made it easier for people to experience a multi-channel purchasing that simulated going to a car dealership. You could actually buy your car online without ever having to go to a showroom. Things like that. Ford had some real challenges because they were a traditional automotive shop, been in business a long time. They didn't change much. So they did something really risky for a big company like this in the middle of massive change, and they cut their IT budget by 30%. Now they did this for a reason. They wanted to get rid of all of the excuses for holding on to old technology so that they could quickly shift to this new technology. It was a journey for them, but they really were successful in establishing a new ecosystem. And they found that the average customer that's purchasing a car, they don't, even if they go to the showrooms, even if they test drive the car, they're usually using multiple channels to validate that purchase before they make it. So by Ford simplifying their business process, standardizing their sales model, and allowing an online digital customer first experience, they were able to reach customers faster with better information, multi-channel, and they sold more product. So that's a really good example of digital transformation, and it applies in any vertical. I've done some work in the healthcare industry, and that's another place where, well, a good example is COVID there too. COVID struck very quickly across our world, and people are using, doctors were using AI to track the symptoms, the issues, the opportunities to reduce the impacts of COVID's control over our world. Every industry has some level of benefit from digital transformation.
Dawn, there was a Chris, when you asked for an example, Chris Cap in the chat throughout is maybe Intuit in their transformation as to what they originally became and what they are now. Is that an example?
Yes, because you're basically taking yourself from a position of Intuit had to change the way they delivered their product as well. So everything had to go multi-channel with Intuit, their technology company. Chris, that's a very good example. Thank you, Olivia. I'm not seeing the chats as they come across, so that helps.
I'll keep an eye out for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay. Good example, Chris. Thank you. So we've talked about digital transformation. Companies are doing this to stay relevant, to keep in touch with market trends, and to deal with changes in the marketplace that impact their customers and allows them to continue to deliver value. Now we'll talk about business process and why that's important and why it's not, digital transformation is never a once and done, because technology is changing at its own rate. People using the technology is changing at its own rate. And the processes that people use to engage with the technology changes as well. We think about things like during the pandemic, I think a lot of us probably before that were very used to going to the grocery store to buying our food. But how many started using Instacart as a result of the pandemic? That was a market change. And to be honest, I have no desire to go to a grocery store again unless I really, really have to. Instacart's easier. It saves me money because I can order what I need and I don't buy all the other crazy stuff. We never thought about things like Uber. You know, you use your phone, it identifies where you are, and instant ride to wherever you need to go in moments. These are things where digital transformation has changed the way we interact and consume product.
And speaking of that,
Yeah.
change from the, based, as a result of the pandemic, Sam had a comment here that remote work is apparently here to stay, but I think it fails to create the relationships that are formed by face-to-face work.
Sam, you raise a good point, and a lot of people are really challenged by that remote work. I happen to be fortunate. I don't think a lot of business process has been put behind. Businesses had to immediately allow people to work from anywhere, but they didn't know the training and the management aspects on how do I manage those people from anywhere. That was one of the benefits I had at Sun Microsystems, because when we decided to save, we were looking at cost savings, and after September 11th, we learned that people needed to be able to work, shift on a dime and work from anywhere. So 32% of our workforce worked from anywhere. But I had people I worked with for 15 years, very close friends, never met them face to face. It is possible, but I think that our industry is still maturing to be able to deal with the human aspects, and that's the challenge. I mean, Sam, it's difficult because you're spending all your time in front of a laptop. Where's the people? And it is possible to create that culture, but it does take a lot more work from a management level, an HR level, and the way we interact with each other. Good point. So this is really where business process comes in. We have a problem or an opportunity that always comes up. How do we identify those opportunities? And if we were using Sam's example of work from home, where a lot of people are doing it, but it's kind of difficult to connect, or it takes longer to ramp up in a new job, you would basically take it through this business process. What's the challenge? What do we need to change? What's that change look like? How do we monitor that how do we know we're actually solving the right problems? And how do we iterate and improve that with the new information we gather as a result of those processes that we've come through? Does that make sense? So with the example of working from home, you would have to do the, people are having a hard time. What's the problem case? People are having a hard time working from home, though they have to or they want to. What is the change? What's the shared need? What do we need to solve to make that better for them? Well, to do that, you have to understand what are the barriers that they're perceiving. And then you go to work on shaping the vision. You mobilize a team of people that are accountable to the customer, or in this case, it's the employee experience, and defining the steps to make the change last. How do we measure it? How do we monitor that we're doing the right things for our employees? And how do we progress that? So that's kind of what business process does. And it basically takes digital transformation or technical project management or tools implementation or human process, like going from an entire office-based environment to an entire mobile environment to a hybrid environment. These are all changes that require some level of dynamics management of business process. So if we take this from the point of digital transformation, business process improvement. The logical last step is, how do we keep evolving as the business needs? How do we keep doing the things that solve the problems that keep us adding and delivering the value that we're subject matter experts in delivering? A center of excellence is an approach that many companies are using. And what that does is it really takes you, it increases your level of maturity over time. And it establishes the basic processes and who you have in your team. It helps to rise all ships basically to a higher level of performance capability. It is a centralized team, generally within an organization, but sometimes it's a working group in an industry. They manage product and service innovation. So what they do is they come together and they will look at, okay, what do we need to do? What's our journey look like? What do we need to do? When do we need to do it? When are we going to implement? What's the people, process, and tools impact of this type of change? And what are the capabilities that our employees or our customers need to know to be able to consume and be happy to consume the solution? So I'm going to pause there and see if there's any questions or comments around Center of Excellence. This is a fairly newer concept, but it basically takes you to a point where you look at what's happening in your industry and how do we continue to stay relevant and identify issues before they become big problems and create opportunities instead.
So we have one question from Judy. Where does the Center of Excellence department typically report to? And we've done this on projects, but Center of Excellence is new to me.
It's new to a lot of people, to be frank. And there are centers of excellence in the medical industry, looking at what are the trusted best practices for medical approaches. In IT service management, it basically takes you from, we know that IT service management consists of, problem, incident, change. It basically takes the key elements of a process and centralizes that. Sometimes that's within the IT organization, and sometimes it's a collection of business stakeholders that's trying to centralize and raise the value that they deliver as a whole. There's a lot of cross-cultural challenges. If we use today's business model as an example, if you talk about the challenges of working from home, you might touch on somebody in IT, you might touch on somebody in human resources, managing policy or issues and concerns. You might have somebody in connectivity, helping to enable different types of connections and support. So it's basically a centralized team, decentralized based on who needs to be involved. Does that answer your question, Judy?
Feel free to come off mute too if you have a question or you want to respond. Like I said, we're a small group this evening, so that's doable.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Dawn.
Hi, Judy.
It did answer somewhat. Normally, I mean, I guess I see it as the product manager would hold the iterations for the product. And I guess that depends on it.
Right. Yes.
That depends on the company and how large it is. So I was just wondering where this department usually sits.
It depends on what the charter of Center of Excellence is. You're right, Judy. For a product, you would have that centered in product management.
Okay.
For a service, you might have that sit in a PMO.
Okay. Okay.
Or,
that's what I know it to be. That's why this is new to me. So it's interesting. Thank you.
A lot of people are a lot of enterprises are starting to look at that, because they say, okay, everybody's using incident management, but they're using it a little differently. Where is it good to allow the difference, or where is it important to apply the standards?
Okay. So, and it would just take members of different groups, so they all have a say, and it could be sort of like a postmortem if you're trying
Yeah.
to do a center
Yeah.
of excellence.
Exactly. It's in fact, it's an extension of a postmortem. A postmortem might be what you would do at the close of a project,
Right.
where a center of excellence looks at how do we expand our capabilities in our program.
Okay. Thank you. Interesting. Thank you very much.
And I can share actually the next slide might shed a little bit more light on that too.
Okay.
Judy. There are 5 keys to really establishing a successful center of excellence. Now, remember that the center of excellence is, I have an existing practice. We have a basic understanding of how we do work, but we really want to use that center of excellence to deliver some more strategic value, or recognize or raise the capabilities of an entire organization, where one group might have a skill set, but others might benefit. The key is really establishing the process standard that center of excellence is going to represent. So what's the charter? And in your example, Judy, when you're talking about a product oriented, I'm working on a project now that we have a product oriented team that's developing the tool, but we also have user persona oriented team looking at what does the customer experience look like? And we've got an IT team looking at what's the technology need to do. So there might be different focus groups for a center of excellence. What they'll do after they define the basic process standards that they're going to operate by is that they define the assets and idea resources that exist within the enterprise. So those might be who else needs to be on my team than me, who if I own this process, who else would I want to interface with that could help shape a better solution? Then we would go about measuring performance and establishing guidance and governance for how that center of excellence will operate, how they'll communicate. And then we begin the empowerment phase, which is where we really empower the subject matter experts to create more experts, to create more capabilities, and to continuously improve based upon new information, new challenges, and new opportunity. Make sense? So moving on, I've talked about the importance of standards. I really would like to, if I did nothing else tonight, the one thing I would encourage you to look at is, what are the best practices that exist for the direction of your education and professional development? I would lean strongly, tools groups, user groups are useful, but if you understand the higher level best practices, you can do a lot more, you can add a lot more value, because instead of creating a solution that's limited by your tools, you're creating a solution that's driven by your customer requirements. So there's a lot of different best practice communities here in the Bay Area, and I've identified a few of those. If you want, Olivia, I can share this slide because these are all linkable, so you can go back into them too. But IT Service Management Forum, I'm the president of the local chapter of IT Service Management Forum. And by the way, quick plug there, I'm looking for some volunteers to help us organize events similar to what you guys do. We talk about best practices in IT service management in ITIL. Another really good organization is HDI. You guys familiar with that? Help Desk Institute. They offer service and support best practices. In the Bay Area, we also have a local chapter of Project Management Institute. I manage a number of LinkedIn best practice groups. So I manage a Jobs and Career Network. I've done that since September 11, 2001. I talked about the incident, the day that the World Trade Center crumbled, that we had to stand up, support our community, and we had an office in World Trade Center Building 2. So we had to stand up in a mobile workforce within 24 hours so that people could continue doing the work that they were responsible for doing. I created the Jobs and Career Network when we started to have to lay off people. That was one of the market changes that we had to address. I helped people find jobs, and now we created a network where people continue to help others find jobs. So somebody that becomes a Jobs and Career Network job seeker later becomes a hiring manager or a recruiter or whatever. It's a very neat best practice for finding your next jobs or finding internships or developing your professional skill set. I also, at that time, the success of me being able to, I had the challenge, I had to lay off at our company.
Hey, doggies.
What's
Hey,
that?
what are you doing? Oh, what are you doing in the dark, huh? Hey.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry about
Okay,
that.
that's okay. So what we were, what I was doing company-wide, we had, after the World Trade Center bombings, we had to lay off 20% of our workforce. And because I was a project management group, you're not doing a lot of innovation at that time. You're scaling back and trying to save money. I had to lay off 50% of my team. And that's why we created the network. I created a network with jobs and career seekers to provide counsel and encouragement and support. And then we created a recruiting professionals network so that HR professionals that were dealing with these painful layoffs and policy changes, and it ended up becoming a support during COVID as well, helped them have a place to come together like a virtual coffee shop to talk about business. I've created a number of those groups. We have a cybersecurity group. We have an executive women's network to encourage women's professional development and celebrating their success. And we have an Association of Artificial Intelligence that looks at AI and robotic process automation. So those are some of the best practices communities that I could recommend for somebody in IT that's looking for well-rounded skill set. Well, plus the global recruiting professionals for those that recruit into those fields.
Dawn, for these organizations, it sounds like they're organizations and they're also LinkedIn groups. Which of these, given for our students here in the community colleges here in the Bay Area, which do you recommend? Do the formal organizations like ITSMF, do they have student memberships or HDI? Which of these would you recommend for our students?
I do recommend IT Service Management Forum. We do have student memberships, but we also have, it's a great way for a student to come in and as a volunteer in our program, they could help us to organize events like this. And then they're getting skill sets, they're getting visibility, and they're getting internship insider track information as well. So I do recommend IT Service Management for an IT professional. If you're looking to the service and support track, HDI is a fantastic organization. I don't remember if they had, I think that they do have student memberships as well, but I know that they have a lot of student development programs. So it depends on what you're looking for. And if you guys need help on, I would offer that to others if they wanted guidance. If they're looking for a job or internship, the Jobs and Career Network is a LinkedIn group. Anybody can join in. We have a lot of recruiters sharing internships as well as career, after they graduate, career opportunities.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on that page? I'll talk a bit about careers and what's noteworthy in the industry now, because these are areas that I'm watching pretty closely because of the Jobs and Career Network, as well as being the president of IT Service Management Forum. I'm often asked, do you know somebody that has this? And most of the time I do. And it's important to develop your LinkedIn profiles, your professional skill set. I would say about 80% of the jobs can be found through a personal network. And developing that now before you need it is a really good thing to do for when you do need it. LinkedIn has been a power force for me. I have literally helped thousands of people find their next jobs only through LinkedIn. And my last 8 to 10 job opportunities have come through LinkedIn. Not through applying for jobs, through people knowing me and asking me to come work for them. It's nice. Career noteworthy is that if you are ITIL certified, there's great career pathing for you in IT project management, IT managers, service delivery managers, and of course, service delivery directors or PMO directors, director level positions. ITIL 4 is the current level of ITIL certification, and that really focuses on the things that I touched on today, which is not just IT processes, but keeping in mind why we're doing these IT processes, which is we're delivering value to the customers we serve and the employees that serve them. The US projections for US Bureau of Labor projects that DevOps has got a 22% growth industry for the next almost 10 years. And the reason for that is because of digital transformation. It's lean, it's agile, and it's moving very quickly. They need developers to help create that solution in that new world. Digital transformation requires business process and business mapping, like what I talked about on the business process. Before you go to a center of excellence, you're going to have what is our current process and what does the change journey look like? So business process management expected growth rate is 27% according to the Bureau of Labor. I will share with you my personal experience because my phone is ringing off the hook now. Everyone is looking now. No one cared about business process when I was in IT 15 years ago even. It was all about the tools and the next websites and the technology. Now people realize that to be relevant, you have to stay in touch with what's the current business and what needs to change to be effective. That's why business process management is really a leading and growing industry. And I would say that its expected growth target, 27%, is probably very conservative. So that really pretty much represents what I wanted to share with you today. Now I'd like to see what kind of questions I can answer for you, or how can I help you?
Unmute if you like to ask a question. In the meantime, if you're thinking about one, Don, I have one.
Okay, go ahead, Olivia.
We have been we at the region have been had some conversations with ServiceNow, and it seems to be their client base is definitely growing here. They're a British company, I believe, and this big growth here in California, and
Headquarters are in California.
Are they now? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we were looking at a program. They had they have instituted a program working with career education programs like ours here in the Bay Area to train our faculty in implementing some parts of their tools into our curriculum so that students can go and get, I guess there's certifications involved with services.
There are.
So what do you think of that? I mean, is that something you think that we should really put some effort into here in the Bay Area?
To really empower the workforce of today and tomorrow, the two things you need is the business process standards, the best practices. That's why you need like an ITSMF or an HDI. What is the process above the tool? And yes, what is the leading tool solution that you can build curriculum around? ServiceNow is powerful workflow management. So any business that exists today has some level of business served by ServiceNow. ServiceNow has, it serves the HR industry, onboarding and hiring. It makes those processes easier. There's a lot of automation that exists in those areas. There's IT service management, which talks about how do you manage tickets, problems, incidents, change, requests. They have a service portal, which is the customer or the employee experience. Where do I go to find support? Where do I go to find knowledge? Knowledge managers are key and underestimated in their value as we talk about DevOps pace, because somebody needs to be quickly documenting what this product or service is going to do and how do people use that. And it's from a couple of different levels. How are we going to support it? And how are our users going to consume it? So yes, there's power in understanding many of the different tools, processes that ServiceNow supports and offers.
We have a question from Chris. How do we sign up to volunteer?
Talk to me. I've given you my LinkedIn. Connect to me on LinkedIn or Dawn. My email's dawncconn@gmail.com. I would love to get some student volunteers because your energy's great. It's good for your career development, and it introduces you to the Bay Area's. I say that ITSMF exists to showcase the best of Silicon Valley innovation. Well, if we start with the student mindset, we're bringing an energy that doesn't exist in the marketplace. I'm excited about that, and I'd love to have some volunteers to join us.
I hope I got your email right. It's dawncconn@gmail.com.
Correct.
Great.
Other questions or comments?
Going once, going twice.
And done. I really appreciate your time and having a chance to engage with you guys. I wish you the best in your future. What you're doing to prepare for the future is so exciting. And really, IT and information security is so essential in our business today, more than I think ever before. So I wish you all the best on your journey, and feel free to connect to me on LinkedIn and let me know if there is something I can do to help you professionally, or if you'd like to get involved in our communities of best practices.
And what I will do for sure is, Dawn, if you send me the deck,
Yeah.
I'll figure out how to link it to the archive.
Yeah.
And,
Okay, great.
yeah, and because I can't say it even in more than you did, is that connecting into these networks, volunteering. And I remember one of the things that I would do, but I've been a consultant for a long time, and in between my gigs, I volunteer. I do pro bono work and volunteer, and that almost always led me to more opportunities.
It does.
Really,
it does.
yeah.
That's, and to really encourage my son is working in IT now, and I'm trying to get him to go there for 5 years, and it took him forever, but now he's there. But it is such an exciting area, and if we come in with an intellectual mindset like you're doing for your school right now, if you are a student of your business, there's always going to be work for you. No matter what changes in the industry, there's always going to be work.
So true. And all of the archives are at the Tech Talks are all archived at bayict.org.
I was looking at those today, and you've got some great content there. So I'm very excited to dig in there too.
Great, great.
All right.
Well, Dawn, thank you so much. And all of our participants here, I really appreciate your interaction. This is going to make for a very good archive talk. And again, stay tuned. We've got more good stuff coming. So thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.